30 games, 7 layers. This is the ultimate lost and mysterious video game iceberg. Thanks to Sirius who gave me the inspiration for this video, and before to start I want to say that I'm Italian, so forgive me. I'm sorry if I make some mistakes while talking in this video. However, let me know in the comments and we can start. Dead or Alive Cod Kronos was the code name given to a cancelled video game that was in development by Team Ninja. The game was announced during an interview with the Play magazine in July 2006, where Tombu Itagaki, I think I said it right, the creator of the Dead or Alive series, stated that Cod Kronos would be a prequel to the Dead or Alive series. It was supposed to tell the story of Ayane and Kasumi's lives before the first tournament. However, the progress of Cod Kronos seems to come to a halt due to Itagaki's dispute with Tecmo. On November 5, 2010, in an interview with Famitsu, the current head of the Team Ninja, Yosuke Ayashi, said that the Cod Kronos was officially cancelled. He mentioned that the development of the project never really took off as it never got past the framework level. Ura Zelda was a planned expansion for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that was supposed to be released on Nintendo 64DD, an add-on for the Nintendo 64. The game was intended to provide an alternate version of Ocarina of Time with the different dungeons. However, due to the commercial failure of the 64DD, Ura Zelda was never released in its original form. Some of the content planned for Ura Zelda was eventually included in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest, which was released for the GameCube. There have been attempts by fans and modders to recreate the Ura Zelda in its original form, but the true Ura Zelda as envisioned by the developers remains a lost piece of gaming history. Garage Band Dream Adventure is a surreal adventure game that was developed by the Japanese company Kinotrope and released in 1999. The game is known for its unique art style and atmosphere, which has been described as a mix of cyberpunk and horror. The game was initially released in a very limited quantity, making it extremely rare to find by collectors. This has led to it being considered a lost game, as very few copies are known to exist. In Garage Bad Dream Adventures, players navigate throughout a dark and grimy world, solving puzzles and interactive with various characters. The game has been praised for its immersive storytelling and innovative gameplay mechanics. Despite its obscurity, Garage Bad Dream Adventure has gained a cult following among fans of surreal and experimental games. In 2022, it was announced that a full English PC port would be available on Steam, allowing a new generation of players to experience this unique game. Garage Bad Dream Adventure is a game that makes you on a surreal journey throughout a dystopian world. The game was developed by Kinotrope and was originally released in 1999. The player character enters his inner world throughout a psychotherapeutic machine known as Garage. The character is transformed into an odd-looking biological machine and must navigate throughout a structurally complex maze-like world in a search of a way out. It combines elements of mystery solving and exploration with RPG elements such as character development throughout body modifications and an interactive fishing system. The story questions the ambiguity of escaping from the world and staying in the world. One of the features of Garage is its detailed world building. Elements like energy, circulation, ecosystem, and how the world came about are intertwined highly and are reflected in the game system, bringing to life the feel of the deep another world. The unique feeling of strangeness and anxiety surrounding the whole game, even though it is not a horror or depressing game, is created by these settings and system. In the remastered version, almost all images have been retouched. Videos have been revised via an AI frame interpolation, user interface and game balance have been improved, and a new chapter, subquests and multiple endings have been added. Who's Lila is a unique video game developed by the Russian independent game studio Garage Hayten and was released in February 2022. The game is described as a reverse detective adventure and is notable for its innovative gameplay mechanic that involves the manipulation of facial expressions. The game is played from the perspective of the protagonist William, a teenager who finds it difficult to express emotions. The narrative revolves around the disappearance of his classmate Tanya Kennedy. William, being the last person who saw her alive, must act naturally in the face of suspicion from classmates and authorities. This forms the crux of the game's mystery. The gameplay of Who's Lila is divided into two sections across a split-screen user interfaces on the left, and the player controls movement and interaction with the game world. On the right-hand side, the player manipulates a close-up representation of their face. During dialogues with the character, the player influences the response given or interaction to the player by manually manipulating parts of their face using the cursor. The game uses a neural network-powered emotion detection to determine one of 6 emotions represented: happy, scared, surprised, sad, angry, or neutral. The game also integrates elements similar to an alternate reality game, as players complete puzzles using elements extraneous to the game, including the use of information from social media pages depicting fictional characters, and a separate program to run parallel to the game to unlock certain events. The game features non-linear gameplay, requiring players to restart the game multiple times, with previous endings being depicted by tarot cards that can be used with a character in the game to offer additional insight of the mysteries of the game. The game features a great amount of 15 endings, and also additional hidden endings are available. The mysteries of the game are gradually revealed throughout multiple playthroughs. These mysteries include the circumstances of Tanya's disappearance, the deeper aspects of William's psyche, and the identity of the titular Lila. The game encourages players to explore different paths and make different choices to uncover all the secrets and solve the mysteries. Star Wars 1313 was a highly anticipated action-adventure video game that was under development by LucasArts. The game was announced in 2012 and was intended to be a more mature, gritty direction compared to the past Star Wars video games. It was being developed on top of Unreal Engine 3. The game was supposed to revolve around Boba Fett and his early adulthood, navigating past the scum of the civilization in an underground area of Coruscant known as Level 1313. The gameplay was going to emphasize fast-paced gadget and weapon-based combat using tools exclusive to bounty hunters rather than Force, and lightsaber-based combat. The game was officially revealed at E3 2012, where its exclusive gameplay footage was broadcasted. The development of Star Wars 1313 involved an integrated approach that included industrial lights and magic Lucasfilm animation. The game was going to have direct involvement from Star Wars creator George Lucas. However, Lucas' frequent changes to the characters and story were described as damaging and difficult to deal with by the development team. Unfortunately, the game was put on hold after the Walt Disney Company's purchase of Lucasfilm in 2013, despite the LucasArts representative reporting that Star Wars 1313 was continuing production. It was announced that the Walt Disney Company had ceased internal development at LucasArts and laid off its staff. As a result, all projects were shut down, including Star Wars 1313. Sonic Xtreme was a platform game that was under development by Sega Technical Institute from 1994, until its cancellation, of course, in 1996. It was intended to be the first fully 3D Sonic game and the first original Sonic game for the Sega Saturn. The game was designed to take Sonic into the 3D area of video games. The storyline followed Sonic on his journey to stop Dr. Robotnik from stealing 6 magic rings from Tiara Bubowski and their father. The game was supposed to feature open level routing around a fixed center of gravity, and like previous Sonic games, it was going to feature a collectible rings and fast-paced gameplay. Sonic Xtreme was conceived as a side-scrolling platform game for the Sega Genesis to succeed Sonic and Knuckles of 1994. However, development shifted to the 32X and then the Saturn and Windows. and the game was redesigned as a 3D platform game for the 1996 holiday season. Unfortunately, the plan was disrupted by company politics, an unfavorable visit by Sega of Japan executives, and obstacles with the game engines planned for use, including one from Sonic Team for another project. The designer Chris Son and programmer Chris Coffin became ill, prompting the producer Mike Wallace to cancel the game. The cancellation of Sonic Xtreme is considered an important factor to the Saturn's commercial failure, as it left the system without an original Sonic platform game. Elements similar to those in Sonic Xtreme appeared in later games such as Sonic Lost World on 2013. Prey 2 was an highly anticipated first-person shooter video game that was being developed by Human Head Studios. The game was announced in 2006 and was planned as a sequel to the original Prey game. The development of Prey 2 began in earnest 2009 after the rights for Prey had transferred from 3D Realms to ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda. The game was set to focus on U.S. Marshal Killian Samuels, who starts the game on a passenger flight which suddenly crashes onto the sphere shown during the events of the original Prey game. Samuels later becomes a bounty hunter on an alien planet known as Exodus, with no memory of the events after his escape from the sphere. The game was going to feature over 20 gadgets with over 40 upgrades for those gadgets. The player would use a variety of earthly and alien weapons to kill and capture targets. Agile combat was also a large part of the game, where the player would jump, climb and over with rocket boots to traverse large alien cities. However, the development of Prey 2 was quietly abandoned for years and was formally cancelled in 2014 by Bethesda Softworks. The reason for the cancellation were not explicitly stated, but it was suggested that the game was not meeting Bethesda's expectations. Despite the cancellation, the original title was rebooted from 2017 as Prey, which was developed by Arcane Studios, and the game was completely different from Prey 2. The cancellation of Prey 2 was a major disappointment for many fans, including me, myself, because I loved the gameplay I saw on 2012 EA. RubyDang was an unreleased strategy sandbox game created by Marcus Notch, who is also known for creating the popular game Minecraft. The development of RubyDang started in early 2009 or even earlier and lasted until May 2009 at the latest. The game was influenced by the Dwarf Fortress and was intended to be a clone of it. It was designed to be easier to play with a heavy focus on accessibility, unlike Dwarf Fortress, which is known for being quite complicated and unfriendly to beginners. RubyDang featured a 3D isometric perspective as opposed to Dwarf Fortress 2D graphics. It also included a 3D texture mapper and grass and cobblestone textures which were randomly colored on the fly. The Terrarian generation was quite varied, containing many bumps, hills and monoliths. Unlike in Minecraft, many surfaces in RubyDang were sloped. Trees using billboarded sprites were present in the game as well, which are numerous in the screenshots where they are present. In a screenshot of an earlier version of the game, there was also a dirt material which formed maze-like dirt paths, and an alternate earlier grass texture legs resembling to one seen in Minecraft. Minions existed which the player could follow around in a first-person view. After the game was cancelled early in development, the code base would later be reused for Minecraft. Most notably, the same block textures that appear in the screenshot of the later version of Minecraft would also appear in the earliest builds of RubyDang. 12 Tales Conquer 64, also known as Conquer's Quest, was a game that was under development by Rare for Nintendo 64. The game was first announced at EA in 1997 and was intended to be a sequel to Conker's Pocket Tales. The game was designed to be a kid-friendly platformer, similar to Banjo-Kazooie. The main characters in the game were working to recollect more than 100 presents stolen by the evil hoodlums and scattered throughout 4 worlds. While questing throughout the worlds collecting presents, Conker and Barry had to save their friends who were kidnapped and free the universe for the hoodlums. They would swing from branch to Kaku village, dodge failing boulders in the popcorn mines, travel throughout time in the windmill pasture, and slide throughout twisting lava tubes in an active volcano. They would have had help in the form of a wise mentor, Know-It the Whole, and would also obtain exotic tools and equipment, like uncycles, umbrellas, and a nut-hurling catapult. However, Rare received criticism for creating another innocent platformer starring cute and friendly animals. In response to this, they decided to entirely redesign the game to appeal to an older audience, while it was first believed to be an April Fool's joke. The game went unreleased and was replaced with Conker's Bad Fur Day in 2001. The game released in its stead was rated M, and gave Conker's world a more adult tone, with prevented characters, a more mature Barry, both in personality and appearance, and a lead squirrel who is now an alcoholic. Kiss or Kill is a unique video game developed by Lover Game Studio. It was released on December 8, 2019, and the game is described as a punk narrative shoot 'em up, and is notable for its innovative gameplay mechanic that involves the choice of either killing or kissing your enemies. The game is a narrative solo game, and the story is between you and the game developer. The end of the game depends on your karma. The game features infinite replayability, endless arcade action, and a scoring system where you can beat your high score and be the world number 1. The gameplay of Kiss or Kill is quite unique. You have the choice to either exterminate your enemies or just kiss them to make a loving world. This choice of love or war adds an interesting dynamic to the game. The game also featured a full motion video to improve an innovative narrative game experience. The game has been described as a psychedelic Japanese twin-stick shooter that combines all kinds of retro gaming styles, cute music, and disturbing imagery. It has been prized for its off-the-world retro-inspired games, and has been described as a game that will be right up your alley if you like quirky games. However, the game mysteries of the game are not explicitly stated. The game's narrative is abstract and surreal, with absurd battles against unlikely opponents based on real-world counterparts. The game's story and the mysteries behind it are revealed throughout the gameplay and the player's interaction with the game developer. In conclusion, Kiss or Kill is a unique and innovative game that combines elements of action, adventure, and narrative storytelling. Germs, Nera Wareta Maki, which translates to Germs, the targeted town, is a first-person open-world survival horror adventure game developed by Kaji for the PlayStation 1 in 1999. The protagonist is a newspaper reporter who has returned to his hometown to investigate mysterious occurrences of strange mutants appearing in the city. The game has an unsettling mix of science fiction, body horror, and surrealism. Possible influences could come from the films of David Cronenberg, David Lynch, and Shinya Tsukamoto, as well as some of the 1950s and 1960s American science fiction flicks for the settings and the story. The player can navigate the open world by walking, driving a car, or taking public transport. The gameplay consists of exploring, gathering information, and engaging in combat. If the player loses to a mutant, they don't die, but rather end up infected, and the player can cure their infection by going to the hospital. Information can be gained from reading emails at the office computer, talking with the people in the city, and reading the text you see upon defeating enemies. Progression occurs when defeating the mutants in an invaded building. As time goes on, more areas become affected. The game ends when stopping the mutants at their source, in the abandoned coal mine. However, the player can still explore the world after the ending scene. This game is incredibly obscure and was way ahead of its time. It is completely open world, with first-person combat and RPG mechanics. I can't believe this game is for the PlayStation 1. The game is known for its absolutely strange and surreal atmosphere. For instance, all of the exterior areas are displayed almost entirely in black and white, similar to an old sci-fi movie, except for the gigantic red arrows floating up to the sky that indicates which of the few buildings you can actually enter. There are no other cars or people on the road, either giving the city an extremely eerie atmosphere. Despite its obscurity, Germs Narewareta Machi has gained a cult following among fans, and I have to say, I really like this game. Sox The Cat Rocks the Hill is an unreleased platform video game that was developed by Real-Time Associates for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and the game stars Sox, the real-life presidential pet cat of the Clinton family during Bill Clinton's tenure in office. Originally scheduled for release in 1993, Sox the Cat experienced delays until it was ultimately cancelled due to the closure of the publisher Kaneko. The game begins with Sox observing foreign spies stealing a nuclear missile launch unit in the basement of a foreign embassy. He embarks on a journey throughout 11 stages, throughout landmarks in the Washington DC area like the Pentagon, to return to the Oval Office in the White House and alert the Clinton family. Throughout the game, Sox must overcome the likes of foreign spies, politicians, the United States Secret Service, and the news media. The bosses are caricatures of political figures such as Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and Ross Perot. The game makes heavy use of the political satire. Nintendo reportedly liked the game despite their censorship policies during the era which condemned the game with political content. The political satire was also prized by the contemporary critics, although the game was otherwise found to be average. A prototype copy eventually entered the hands of private collectors, and following a successful Kickstarter campaign, the ROM image was released to the public in 2018. This allowed fans to finally experience this long-lost piece of gaming history, despite this cancellation. PacMan Ghost Zone is a lost game that was in development by Namco Home Tech for PlayStation 1. It was planned to be released on November 1997, but was cancelled due to quality issues. The game was intended to be a sandbox 3D platformer similar to games like Super Mario 64. PacMan was about to travel across 14 different worlds inside the digital arcade world, such as the Ghosts, Ancient Lair Forests, mansions, and computer board locations. The story of the game involved a kid who, unable to find a space to play the latest arcade game, was told to go play Pac-Man. The kid insulted the Pac-Man arcade cabinet for being too old school, which angered the ghosts Blinky, Inky, and their master, the Ghost Lord. The Ghost Lord ordered the ghosts to use his pixel cannon, which digitalized the kid and sucked him into the arcade cabinet's digital world. The kid then found himself transformed into the game's player character, Pac-Man. The development of Pac-Man Ghost Zone started in 1996, however the game was cancelled in the mid-1997 after a series of issues. Many of the concepts featured in this lost game would be reworked into Pac-Man World, which was released 2 years later. Dirty Harry, the video game, was a cancelled action game that was being in development by the Collective and intended to be published by Warner Bros. Interactive. The game was set to continue the story of the 1971 film Dirty Harry, with Clint Eastwood reprising his role as Harry Callahan, the protagonist. Eastwood was not only lending his voice and likenesses, but also providing consulting and creative input. The game was to follow the same storyline of the film, with the San Francisco detective tracking down a serial killer named Scorpio. The game was planned for both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 consoles, with a release in 2007. The game was to take place in between Dirty Harry and Magnum Force, with the aim being to give more depth to the character. The development of the game started as early as April 2006, A trailer for the game has been the only example given of the game's gameplay or engine capabilities. It was neither a computer-generated cutscenes nor an actual gameplay. Instead, Warner Bros. Gave its model and engine schematics to an animation house to produce a simulation of the gameplay. An early concept for the game featured a free roaming San Francisco. However, after the game was put into full development in February 2006, this idea was dropped in favor of a mission-based structure. One key aspect of the gameplay was discussed in slightly detail, as in the films Harry Callahan walks the line between the cop and the psychopath. Players were also walk that line. The game was to feature reactive AI, both for crooks and cops. Despite the promising start, the game's development faced several issues. The collective had been expecting lifelike graphics from the PS3 and 360, that was impossible, but had to scale back details once they received the development kits that didn't meet the expectations. Eventually, the project was quietly cancelled, which one source telling Unseen64 that Warner Bros. Felt the game wasn't very good. Bully 2 was a highly anticipated sequel to the popular game Bully, also known as Kane's Canem Edit, developed by Rockstar Games. The development of Bully 2 started in 2008, with Rockstar co-founder Dan Houser leading a small team to outline sequel possibilities. However, the project didn't last long and was shelved. The game resurfaced between 2010 and 2013 during the release period of Rockstar's major titles like GTA 5 or Red Dead Redemption. During this time, a team at Rockstar New England spent 18 months producing a concept and vertical slice. These efforts resulted in a playable Bully 2 build using Rockstar's proprietary Rage technology. However, this version also ended up being cancelled. The game was set to take place about 6 months after the original Bully, and the protagonist Jimmy Hopkins would have returned to his hometown for the summer holidays at the end of his first year at Pulseworth Academy. The team had created about 16 missions, some of which involved Jimmy rescuing kids at a summer camp, and the game also boasted approximately 6 to 8 hours of playable content. Despite the significant progress made, the game was eventually cancelled to prioritize other projects. Strawberry Cubes is a 2015 video game developed by American independent developer Lauren Smith. It's an open-ended platformer that makes heavy use of glitches in its visual representation and mechanics. The game is an unorthodox platformer, where the player navigates a surrealistic maze. The game lacks a conventional control scheme, and players are encouraged to try pressing other keys, which have effects that include warping the player across the screen or to hidden rooms, or changing the visual presentation of the game. The game is also known for its experimental and explorative qualities. It rewards observation, granting extraordinary powers if you pay close attention. For example, as you move from room to room, you'll notice hidden numbers and letters. If you press the numbers 7 on your keyboard, you wrap there. Other rooms attach the numbers to the player, including asterisks. When you punch in all the numbers on the screen, something happens. The game was developed as an open-ended experience, consciously without a sense of achievement or mastery, and it lacks a distinct end state. Smith invites the player to find meaning and closure to the game upon their own terms. There are hidden features and secrets in the game that refers to the overarching intent of the creator, including hidden messages and images in the game and its files. The design of the game was initially inspired by Smith's desire to make a game without my relationship with my grandmother, who suffered from Alzheimer's, and further driven by a personal goal to revisit and interrogate memories of her grandmother in terms of the happy one's memories of losing her gradually over 7 years. This theme is reflected in the game's cryptic set of glitches and magical transformation, which abstractly evoke the feeling of losing a family member to Alzheimer's disease. World of Darkness Online, also known as World of Darkness, was a massively multiplayer online role-playing game MMORPG that was in development by CCP Games from 2006 until its cancellation in 2014. The game was based on the World of Darkness series of tabletop role-playing games by White Wolf Publishing. The game was planned to be an open-world, single-server MMORPG. It was meant to take place at night and have a supernatural horror theme. Players were planned to start the game as humans, with the possibility of being turned into a vampire from one of 7 vampire clans with access to various vampiric powers. Other World of Darkness character types such as werewolf or mages were not planned to be playable at launch, at least. The game was going to be non-linear and focused on social interaction and politics among players. The game was going to be an MMO set in the storied franchise. However, the game was never able to manifest and was subsequently cancelled. The development was long and troubled, with organizational and management issues, including staff being moved to the other CCP Games projects for months at a time, significantly slowing down progress and leading to work being abandoned. The team size was also significantly decreased throughout the production, with several rounds of layoffs. Although World of Darkness Online was considered one of the highest profile games to have been cancelled in the 2010s, the cancellation of layoffs were not unusual for the video game industry. Pico School 2, also known as Pico 2, was an unfinished sequel to the 1999 Flash game Pico School, created by Tom Fulp of Newgrounds. The game was in development for several years, but was ultimately cancelled. Following the success of Pico School, fans started begging for a sequel. In response, Tom Fulp announced that he was working on a sequel in 1999. However, due to other projects like Alien, Hominid, and other Newgrounds classics, he didn't complete the game, causing the game to be cancelled. 2 different versions of the game were known to be developed. One version had art by Mind Chamber and the other by Tom Fulp. Only Newgrounds supporters received the opportunity to play 2 prototype builds of the game, and these demos were not shared with the rest of the public. The game was set during an ordinary day in class, where 3 new students joined the class: Rock, Yose and Leroy. However, these new students are actually ghetto bots from space sent by the Penilians to eliminate Picos and the rest of the humans on Earth. So it's up to Pico to stop them once again before it's too late. Kurayami was a psychological horror game that was pitched by Grasshopper Manufacture as a PlayStation 3 exclusive. The game was inspired by the novels of Franz Kafka, a writer known of his stories about alienation, psycho and psychological paranoia. The game was announced in Age Magazine issue 162 in May 2006. In Kurayami, players would have had to explore a mysterious European castle, which can be related to Kafka's The Castle, and the nearby village filled with creepy inhabitants. It feels like Resident Evil Village. The player would use the light from their torch to solve puzzles and move throughout the darkness. Light and darkness would have been a central theme in the game, where danger would have been lurking in the darkness. The game was not about hideouts, monsters or evil creatures coming out from the darkness, but playing on our natural fears of the dark and the uneasiness that comes from the absence of noise and life. The game was intended to show what life is and what being human is. Player would have had to pay attention to one's folk too, as the game would have been ambiguous about their intention and personality. Kurayami would have used a cel shading style focused on the contrast between colors and black, evolving the 3D engine in Grasshopper, already used in Killer 7. However, the game never entered in the prototype form, and it was not even in development at some point. The artwork was just something they submitted. Hellraiser Nest. Hellraiser was a video game that was planned for release on Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, Atari Lynx and Sega Mega Drive. The game was based on the 1987 film of the same name and was being developed by Color Dreams, a company known for creating unlicensed video games. The game was envisioned to feature an ambitious Wolfenstein-style engine. It was supposed to achieve using a special super cartridge on the Nest that would have an extra processor, allowing for better graphics and sounding capabilities. The Lynx and Mega Drive were already powerful enough to do that. However, the game never gained much traction and is considered a lost NES title today. The project was abandoned for various reasons. One of the developers mentioned was that the license was just set on and nothing really happened. The focus moved on to other titles, and apparently only a bare bones development was made overall. Wild was a highly anticipated PlayStation exclusive for the PlayStation 4, and it was announced in 2014. The game was being developed by Wild Sheep Studios and was directed by Michael Ansel, known for his work on Rayman and Beyond Good and Evil. However, years of public silence around the project, it was reported that the game had been cancelled. The game was set in a vast open world during the Neolithic period, approximately 10,000–2000 BC. The unique selling point of Wild was the ability to play as any creature in the game, promising a level of freedom and exploration not seen in many other games. And I saw the gameplay trailer, I remember this game. Despite the initial excitement surrounding its announcement, updates on Wild became increasingly rare. The last significant update was in 2015 when a gameplay trailer was shown at Paris Games Week. After this, news about the game started to fade, and it entered a state of development limbo. In 2020, Michael Ansel announced his retirement from the video game industry, leading many to speculate about the fate of Wild. These fears were confirmed when it was reported that the game had been cancelled. Happy Wheels 2, often referred to as the sequel to the original Happy Wheels, is a game that has been in development since late October to early November 2012, and the game is being developed by Jim Bonacci, the creator of the original Happy Wheels. However, despite being in development for several years, the game has not yet been released and is considered a lost game. Unlike the original game, which was a browser-based game developed in Flash, Happy Wheels 2 is being programmed in C++ and uses OpenGL for rendering. This shift in technology is likely due to the discontinuation of Flash, which has led many developers to move their games to more modern platforms. One of the unique aspects of Happy Wheels 2 is that it will require a player to download the game, unlike the original which could be played directly in a web browser. Also stated that it might cost around $5 to $10 to create levels, although this game has not been confirmed. Despite the long development time, not much is known about the sequel. Bonacci stated that he would rather release the final product as opposed to shadowing the various stages of development, and however, he has shared some information about the sequel on the Happy Wheels Discord server. There is no official release date for Happy Wheels 2, but there is a possibility that it may release sometimes in 2024-2025. It will be free to play and it will work on both Windows and Mac operating system. This is everything we know. Earthworm Jim PSP was a planned entry in the Earthworm Jim series of video games. Intended for release on the PlayStation Portable, the game was being developed by Shiny Entertainment and was to be published by Atari. The game was first announced in 2006 and was initially thought to be a remake of the original Earthworm Jim. However, it was later revealed that it would contain mostly original content. The game was reported to reunite some of the developers who had worked on the acclaimed Earthworm Jim and Earthworm Jim 2, but had been absent during the production of the more poorly received Earthworm Jim 3D and Earthworm Jim -2 The Galaxy. The development team included the Shiny Entertainment founder Dave Perry, Doug TenNapel, Nick Bruti, and Tommy Tallarico. The gameplay was to retain the style of the original two titles, and playing as a 2D side-scrolling platformer with elements of a run and gun, but now with 3D computer graphics. Many new features were planned as well, including the ability to collect different parts for Jim's power suit, and such as new gloves, boots and armor. A 2-players competitive mode was also to be included. However, by August 2006, the game was reportedly to be at 80% complete, and many video game journalists had hands-on playable builds of the game, and it was scheduled for an early 2007 release. However, despite the progress made, the game was ultimately cancelled in mid-2007, and we don't know why or anything else about it. Aliens Colonial Marines for PlayStation 2 is a lost game that was based on the Aliens franchise, and the game was being developed by Check 6 Game and was to be published by Fox Interactive and Electronic Arts. The development of the game started in 2001, but it was cancelled in 2002 before its release. The game was announced with much fanfare and was eagerly awaited by fans of the franchise. A trailer for the game was even produced, but it was never released to the public. This trailer was planned to be a launch trailer for the game in 2002, and it consisted of 0 game assets and was just animation done by an external company. However, the game was plagued with bugs and faced massive issues with the Check 6 engine and their overall development process. These issues eventually led to the cancellation of the game. The cancellation of the game was a significant loss for the gaming community, especially for the fans of Alien franchise. Infra is a first-person adventure video game developed by Loist Interactive. The game was released in multiple parts, with the first part released on January 15, 2016, and the second part released on September 24, 2016, and the third final part on September 27, 2017. In Infra, you play as a structural analyst tasked with inspecting infrastructure in and around, and the fictional Scandinavian city of Stalburg. The game starts with a routine mission, but quickly turns into a fight for survival, all caused by deep-rooted schemes of the past. Your tools are simple: a camera and a flashlight. The camera is used to photograph structural damage and lower elements, often pieces of paper. Throughout taking photographs is optional, it actually affects the game outcome. The gameplay primarily consists of solving environmental puzzles to progress throughout each environment and photographing any damage or relevant documents discovered. The gameplay primarily consists of solving environmental puzzles to progress throughout each environment and photographing any damage or relevant documents discovered along the way. During this exploration, the player will come across potentially lethal situations, such as rockfalls or electrified water, which become increasingly dangerous as the city's infrastructure begins to fail. The game has a strong focus on environmental storytelling, with the player uncovering a massive scheme behind the city problems. The game's world is very detailed and there's plenty to explore and discover. As for the mysteries in Infra, there is a guide on the Steam community that discusses a strange message left hidden in the secret places throughout the game. This guide was the beginning of a hunt to discover these hidden messages. A dedicated team of problem solvers on Infra official Discord are working together to solve these and other deeper mysteries, along with additional clues from the developers. Cartoon Network Backlot Party is a lost game that was planned to be published by Little Orbit and developed by Game Machine Studios. The game was first announced on March 26, 2014 and was intended to be released in 2015 on Nintendo Wii and Nintendo 3DS. The game was a crossover that would have featured characters from various Cartoon Network franchises. The players would have been invited to experience these characters hanging out and partying after a week of acting on the shows they came from, and I don't actually understood what this line means from the site that took this information. The game would have had 7 games modes, including Shoot to Win, Dodgeball, Go Jump Head, Sneak a Catch, Backyard Chase, Muriel's in Peril, and Girl Trouble. Also, Backlot Party would have had a total of 24 playable characters from shows like Dexter, Cow and Chicken, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Bill and Maddie, Adventure Time, Regular Show, and The Amazing World of Gumball. Despite the promising premise and the excitement of the fans, the game was ultimately cancelled, and the exact reasons for the cancellation are not clear. But it was confirmed by the publisher that this cancellation was a significant disappointment for fans who were looking forward to this unique crossover experience. Tingle Horror Game is a lost game that was once in development by Nintendo and Vanpool. The game was set to star Tingle, a character from the Zelda series, in a horror-themed adventure. It is actually like Luigi mentioned. This would have been a significant departure from Tingle's usual appearances, which are often comedic or eccentric in nature. The game was in development around 8 years ago, which would place it into the early 2010s. However, the project was cancelled due to a variety of reasons. The exact reason for the cancellation were not disclosed, but it's not uncommon for video game projects to be cancelled due to issues such as budget constraints, development difficulties, or changes in market trends. Despite the cancellation, the concept of the Tingle Horror game is intriguing. Tingle is a unique character with a distinctive personality, and it would have been interesting to see how this would have translated into a horror game setting. After the cancellation of the Tingle Horror game, Nintendo and Vanpool continued to collaborate on other projects. One of these projects was Dillon's Rolling Western, a game that was eventually released on the Nintendo 3DS. Attacking Zeta is a 2D platformer game developed by Denisoft and released on June 23, 2015. The game is set in a city where the local police department, known as the GCPD, created a division of mechanical robots to protect the city and fight the crime. However, something went wrong and the robots started to attack humans. The game is known for its challenging gameplay, with some players describing it as the hardest, most challenging and craziest game they ever played. Despite its difficulty, the game has received positive reviews from players who appreciate its challenging nature. As for the mysteries behind Attacking Zeta, there are several walkthroughs and guides available online that delve into the game's secrets. For example, one YouTube video provides a deathless walkthrough of the game, showcasing strategies for each level. Another video shows gameplay for all levels of Attacking Zeta 2, the sequel of the original game. Interestingly, a portion of the earnings from Attacking Zeta goes towards educational game development. This shows the developers' commitment to not only creating an entertaining game, but also contributing to the broader field of educational game development. Married with Children was a lost game that was supposed to be a point-and-click adventure game based on the long-running TV sitcom. The game was announced at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show in January 1990 for ShareData's premium line of Monarch video games, and was originally a PC-only exclusive. It was compared to Sierra's Leisure Suite Larry series and LucasArts adventure games. Games producer Christopher Earhart described the interface as simple as Lucasfilm Maniac mentioned, so the player can direct the characters as easily as Peg manipulates Ai's wallet. The game was scheduled for a June 1990 release, but ShareData switched to the developing NES games and intended to bring the title to the NES too. However, the game never made it to the market. A screenshot of the lost game was found by Frank Cifaldi of the Video Game History Foundation, providing that the game existed and that work was being done on it. The screenshot showed an image of Peggy in the Bundy family's living room, which showed off the outstanding VGA graphics, documented at the time at least. Outstanding VGA graphics for the time. In conclusion, Married with Children is a fascinating piece of game history. Marionette is a lost game that was in development for the Nintendo GameCube. The game was first announced at EA 2001, where Nintendo accidentally included it on an online release list, alongside other titles like Super Mario Sunshine. This list was quickly cancelled, but not before it piqued the curiosity of the players. In an interview with IGN in August 2001, Shigeru Miyamoto, prominent figure at Nintendo, confirmed that Marionette was under development, and he described it as a puppet game, not a Mario game. and expressed his hope to create something both complicated and simple at the same time. The game was being experimented with during its concept stages on both the N64 and GameCube. However, Marionette was never fully developed. Miyamoto later suggested that the game might be more suited for the Wii, as manipulating a marionette would be enjoyable with the Wii remote, and he also hinted at potential network features, as the Japanese spelling of the name breaks down perfectly to Mario and Net. Despite these intriguing details, development of Marionette eventually ceased, and Miyamoto stated that while they were no longer working on it, they were preserving it in the form of its story elements for potential future release. Unfortunately, Nintendo never released any game or other media from this cancelled project. If you watched all the video, thank you so much, and if you liked it, consider to subscribe to the channel, it will really help me a lot. And please, if you want, go follow me on Instagram, there's the link in the description. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.